Good morning, everybody. Shefa bracha v'atzlacha. We are standing now in parashat lecha. Avraham Avinu, the father of our nation, is being ordered to leave everything behind and start a new way, a way that when he gets there is going to have an unbelievable life, prosperous. He's going to be blessed. He's going to be blessed, bring blessing to all the area where he is. But first of all, God tells him, lech lecha ma'artzecha, you have to leave the country, the place of birth and the place of your home, the father's home, and only then can you start this new way. And of course that this is not a story about Avraham Avinu, this is a story of our life and how should we behave and act. And God is telling us, each one of us, we have to start now. We started a new year. We are in Chodesh Cheshvan after all the month of Yom Tovim and holidays, beautiful month that gave us a lot of power in order to put this power into the normal daily life. And this is now. But in order to do this, God is telling us we have to leave all the things that we did in the past, especially Kamvan, we're talking about the bad things, and leave them behind. Leave the bad influence behind. Leave all the bad things we did behind. Try and, if you have, let's say you live in a bad place and you have bad company, try and get away from this company, because if you want to start a new way, you have to clean yourself. It's like somebody going into the mikveh after he's impure and he's holding the thing that makes him impure in his hand. So you cannot just impure yourself when you've got the thing that is impuring you in your hand. It doesn't work this way. So you have to throw it away and then start a new way. So God is telling him, leave everything, go on the way to the land I'm going to show you. And this is also a puzzling thing, because God is not telling him where he should go, but we see that he knows where to go. The Torah is telling us, Vayelech arza Knaan, Vayavo arza Knaan. So in other words, he went to the land of Canaan, which is Eretz Israel, and he got there. So, okay, he knows where to go. So why is the Torah mentioning it twice? That he went to the place and then that he got there. Because that's exactly the point. Even when we know the target, even when we know where we are going, and Avraham Avinu knows, he knows the idea, I'm leaving everything behind in order to go and connect to Eretz Israel. And connect to Eretz Israel not only from the physical side, the materialistic side, but from the spiritual side. And that's the important part. Because to come to Eretz Israel and do the bad in the eyes of God, that's not the idea. It's even worse than the place that you left. But here you have to behave in a different way. When you get to Eretz Israel, you have to put your spiritual behavior into the physical side. In other words, elevate yourself, elevate the land, the Aretz, the land of Israel has to be elevated by the Torah. And this is the task, this is the mission. But when you go on the way, there are obstacles on the way. Not always you are successful to go through the way. So God is telling you that way to do it. And Avraham Avinu is successful. He goes out and he knows exactly where to go and he gets there. How does he get there? Because he's got the power to fight against everything that is against his belief. He knows that there is a God. He knows about the things he has to do, and it doesn't matter that the whole world around him doesn't agree with his opinion. He is going and knows, this is my way. And this is in life what we should do. We should be very careful from the bad influence of a bad environment, bad neighbors, bad friends, and etc., etc. One of the interesting things is, a few years ago, my wife saw on the television a program about women who went to jail on minor things like tax fraud and didn't pay taxes, or all those things that we call white collar. That they're not really criminals, like in the way of murderers and robbers, but those women were put into jail together with low-life women, with prostitutes, with murderers, with robbers. And this meeting with this different life was very interesting, because what happens is they interview those women before they went into jail, And then they interviewed those women after they got out of jail. And it was unbelievable to see what happened to them. The bad language that they caught in the jail, the bad friends, the bad environment, the bad companion that they had there, had a crucial influence on their life and on the way they were speaking and talking. And also, those delicate ladies, they were not delicate anymore, and they were talking in such an, let's say, a terrible way, cursing and everything, because of the influence of the environment. They've been there for a few months, for a few years, and the longer they've been there, the worse the situation was. And this is really a big lesson to us, to understand and realize, no, I can work it out. Nothing is going to influence me. It's wrong, because we all know that unfortunately things do influence us, even if we don't feel it right now. And this brings us to a very interesting phrase that is written in the parsha. There is a war, and Lot is being captured in this war, and he's being taken away from Sodom, where he's sitting. It's also very interesting where he's choosing to live. He chooses to live in Sodom after there is a row between the shepherds of Avram and the shepherds of Lot. They decided to separate, and Avram Avinu gives him the choice. You choose where you want to go. So he looks and he sees this area of Sodom, which is fruitful, green, prosperous. It looks very, very good, and he decides to live there. The Torah is telling us, "V'anshei Sodom ra'im v'chata'im me'od la'Hashem." Not only they are evil, they are sinners, they are very bad people. Very bad people. And he is choosing to live there because of the money, because of the parnasa, because that he wants more from the physical side of life, from the material. He wants the materialistic way of life. And what happens to him? And do remember that Lot is not coming from a bad family. He's not coming from a bad environment. He was raised up in the house of Avram. So he knows what it is, the good side of life, and how to behave. But unfortunately, he decides to go and live with those people. Maybe he thought, it's not going to influence me. I'm going to stay the same tzaddik that I was before. I'm going to stay the same situation. Unfortunately, what do we see? The Torah is telling us, he's been taken away, vehu yoshev b'Sodom, and he sits in Sodom. How can he sit in Sodom if they took him away from there? They captured him, they took him away, he's not there anymore. So why is the Torah telling us he's sitting in Sodom? There are a few explanations, but one of the beautiful explanations is that the Torah is really telling us that his mind, his head, his all ideas was Sodom. So even though they took him from Sodom, he's still with his mind is where? Is in Sodom. He is still there, connected, with all his ideals to Sodom. And what's happening is later on when he comes back, he goes back to Sodom. And eventually he's become one of the judges of Sodom, which is unbelievable. This guy was raised up in the house of Avram Avinu. And he becomes, let's say, such a bad person because of the influence. And this is a big lesson for us. Vehu yoshev b'Sodom. They took him away, but with his mind, with his spiritual level, that instead of going on the holy side, he's going on the bad side. And the lesson for us is, when we walk and go now at the new way, lech lecha ma'artzecha u'miparatecha bet avicha, God is telling us, each one of us is got this way. And we have to see how Avraham Avinu is really dealing with all the problems. So the first thing is, there is a midrash that says that the first test, which is this test, we leave the place and go to the place I'm showing you, is the same as the last test, because it's written in the same way, lech lecha, lech lecha. And you know what lech lecha is? Go for your own benefit. So the own benefit we can understand in the first test. because God is telling him, you're going to leave this place. People don't like him very much in this place because he's going against all their ideas. They are idol worshippers, and he is telling everybody to worship one God. There is only one God. There is no more than one God. And they don't exactly like him, and he was even thrown into the fire in Or Kasdim by Nimrod. And here God is telling him, leave this horrible place, go to a beautiful place which you are going to be blessed and get all the good of this world and the next world. Who is going to say no? If a billionaire is going to come to you and tell you, here, leave the place where you live, and you're living in in slums, in a bad place. I'm going to take you now to beautiful town. You are going to get a beautiful house with all the facilities, all the good of this world, cars, servants, machines, everything what you want from the spiritual side, from the physical side, everything. Who is going to say no? And what exactly test is there here? They're telling you, leave the place, get $2 million, have beautiful life. You're going to say no? You're going to tell this a test? So how is this a test? And then you compare this to the last test, when God is telling him, take your only son, take your son that you love, Yitzchak, and sacrifice him to me. And you compare this to the first test, and it's written in the same way, lech lecha. It's for your own benefit. So we have to understand what's going on here. So when we look, we see a very interesting point. It's Vayomer. God is telling Avraham Avinu to leave the place. And when we talk about Avraham Avinu doing what God is telling him, it's called Ka'asher diber Hashem elav. Now, Vayomer and diber, if you translate it, is maybe the same meaning, but there's a different phrase, and it's a different meaning. When it's written Vayomer, to say in a way of Vayomer, we mean that it's something good. Something good is going to happen to you. Like here, it tells him you're going to leave this place and you're going to go to a much better place and you're going to be blessed with all the good of this world. So this is Vayomer. You're going to elevate yourself. You're going to be prosperous. When you say ledaber, the other phrase, this is hard talking. This is like something that you have to are ordered to do. It's hard things to do. It's not an easy thing. It's a task that you have, a mission that you have to fulfill. And what is happening here is that the Torah should have written that he did like Mo she'amar Hashem, like God says in the phrase of you're going to be elevated, you're going to be blessed. But that's not what Torah is saying. The Torah is saying Ka'asher diber, that Avraham Avinu didn't care about the reward he's going to get. The only thing that he cared about is God asked me to do something, I'm going to do it. So he's doing things not because of the benefits he's got out of it, but because he loves God. And he wants to do what God asks him to do. Now when we think about it, okay, yes, but if we want to think about the midrash that compares the last test to the first test, we can understand it if we realize how hard it is. If somebody promises you something unbelievable good, $1 million, $2 million, and a house and everything, and you love this guy and you're going to do it, why? Because you're getting a house? Because you're getting $2 million? Or because you want to do what he asked you to do? Even if you want to do what he asked you to do, who can elevate himself to a level of not thinking about the reward? Who? Think about it for a minute. This is not easy, and it's almost impossible, because you always will think, okay, I'm going to listen, I'm going to do what he asked me to do, but of course I'm going to get rewarded, and think, who can let's separate himself from thinking about the reward? Avraham Avinu can. And this is why they compare the first test to the last test, because it doesn't matter what God asked him to do. If God asked him to go and be blessed and get millions of dollars, or God asked him to sacrifice his son, for Avraham Avinu it's the same. For Avraham Avinu it's the same from the simple point of view. God asked me to do it, I'm doing it. We have to understand, of course, another point. Avraham Avinu go also deep inside understand whatever God is asking him to do is only for his own benefit. Lech lecha, it's for your own benefit. It's only for the good. That's why it's lech lecha. Lech lecha, not just go. You're going to be rewarded. You're going to benefit out of it. And it doesn't matter what God asks you to do, even if it looks bad. Eventually, it's only for the best. If you get to this level of belief, like Avraham Avinu, there is no problem to do whatever God asks you to do. And this is what the lech lecha that we have to learn from Avraham Avinu. To be on control on our thoughts, on our mind, and understand and realize that at the end of the day, whatever we have to do, and even if there are difficulties in the way of the Torah, with the mitzvahs and everything, we are committed to God. And sometimes it's not easy. But if we realize, understand, and really believe in it, that it's only for our good, it's going to be much easier to do it. And this is exactly the big lesson, I think, from our parsha. Of course, there is a lot of other things to talk about the parsha, but I think that one of the biggest lessons is that each one of us is now going on a new way. We're going to try and leave all the bad influence behind, all the bad things that we used to do, all the, let's say, if we have bad friends, to leave it. And if people talk Lashon Hara, we try to walk away. If we do this, then we can start a new way, realizing that whatever it is, and whatever we'll have obstacles on the way, we'll have, don't look at it as an obstacle, look at it as a mission that we have to go through. It's like a soldier in the special units. He has special training, but he enjoys every minute of it, though it's very hard, because he knows that at the end of those special training, he's going to be a soldier in the special unit. We are soldiers in the special unit of God. So with all the difficulties, we are Am Yisrael. We are the children of God. And whatever we do is going to elevate us and bring us to the target of the combination of Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, and Torat Yisrael. To combine the Torah with the man and with the land. And Be'ezrat Hashem, hopefully, we all walk on the way to the Geulah b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.